today. I'm Dr. Cheryl Kasdorf, and I have a special guest today, Dr. Beverly Lawrence. We're going to be talking about OM for success, boost intuition and overcome barriers to meditation by understanding the 5 elements. That's quite a mouthful. Dr. Beverly Lawrence is a holistic professional and a holistic medical intuitive. Her passion is to help people obtain and maintain optimal health, and she does this through her Dancing Bear Healing Center and her Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy. Welcome, Dr. Beverly.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Cheryl.
So why is it that people have barriers to meditation? What's going on?
Well, some of the things I hear from people are, well, I'm not going to sit there and go, or I can't sit still, or I can't blank out my mind, I can't empty my mind, or I don't have time is another one. That's a big one, actually. People say I don't have time. And those to me are all just excuses. And they really don't understand the purpose of meditation and the right meditation. There's so many different kinds of meditations.
So we'll stop right there. What is the purpose of meditation?
What is it is not to stop thinking. If you stop having thoughts, you're dead. Okay, that's impossible. So don't do that.
Yeah, I always say the function of the mind is to make thoughts.
Exactly. Well, actually, a lot of it comes from the belly brain. We have 3 brains. We have a heart brain, a belly brain, the mind brain. The mind brain is the logical processor to put it all together. A lot of our emotions come from our gut. The purpose of meditation is multifold. Okay, there's many purposes, but one of the purposes is to get to know yourself. What are the thoughts going on in your head? Notice them, but don't go with them. Like there are some habits that you might have that you don't like. Well, you'll hear yourself thinking these things. Make the correction at the thought level. And when you go, okay, I talk to myself, okay, that was not a good thought. You're not going to think that way anymore. I mean, I literally tell myself that is not okay. And then I re-script it. That's one thing you can do. You can use it for spiritual development. You can use it for healing. I've actually healed a number of spontaneous things just through meditation.
Oh,
One of the best things about meditation
like that too.
is you can exercise and the body doesn't know the difference. So I will sit there and I'll do all kinds of exercises, jumping jacks, whatever. And the body thinks I did it. And there's research to show that your muscles think that they had a workout.
Right.
It's the mind-body connection and it's powerful.
Yeah. But to know yourself is just so important, to know who you really are underneath all those thoughts and belief patterns and expectations that everybody laid on you. That's a lot about what I like to teach about living from intuition, which is living in this present moment. Mm-hmm. And whatever form of meditation can get you there, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree completely, because that's where you start. That's the starting point for meditation. It goes much deeper than that. You know, people always talk about raising your vibration. You can do that through meditation. You can fix relationships because you fix yourself. You don't fix the other person. You work on yourself through your meditation. I mean, there's just so much you can do with meditation. For me, it saved my life. I was literally dying. I had everything under the sun. I was going into anaphylactic shock several times a week. I was rescued off Angel Island by ranger boat. I was rescued off Mission Peak by helicopter. And one day the emergency room doctor said, "I'm tired of seeing you here. Go see an allergist." I went, okay. So I went to the best allergist in the Bay Area. I lived in California back then. After an hour, she said, "I can't help you." Wow. Yeah. And I'm carrying a purse the size of, a huge purse full of medicine to keep me alive because I kept getting so sick. And I went to see a doctor I didn't really need, but I knew him for a long time and trusted him. He was an older doctor. And I said, "I don't know what's going on with me." It was a gynecologist, and I didn't really need a gynecologist, but I said, "I need help." And he said, "You need to meditate." And I was an atheist at the time. So it's like, what? Meditate. But this was a long time ago and we read books back then. So I went and checked out some books and read books and thought, okay. And then I asked around to people at work, do you know any place to go? And they said, yeah, try TM. So I actually started with transcendental meditation.
I did too. So that's interesting.
And yeah, a lot of people did.
Hmm.
And they said, well, in 2 weeks you'll be here, in 2 months you'll be here, in 2 years you'll be here. And if you're really lucky, in 10 years you'll be here. Well, in 2 weeks, I'm at 2 months. At 2 months, I'm at 2 years. And I'm way beyond 10 years after that. And meditation will literally wake you up to what is your soul? Who are you? And what is your soul purpose? Why are you here? And when I woke up to that, I went, oh, I was supposed to get divorced 10 years sooner. I'm behind. And I knew I was behind. And I spent the next 5 years just very intensely studying meditation, energy healing, all kinds of different kinds of healing, shamanism, all kinds of stuff. And at the end of the 5 years, I knew I'd caught up. Now I had to deal with my stuff. I spent 4 years in therapy. I spent another almost 9 months doing regression therapy, re-scripting my whole life. Because unless you re-script it, you're just reliving all this old crap. And then I got to the point where I thought, I'm going to go to medical school. I'm going to learn healthcare, because I was already a hypnotherapist. But I felt I could hurt people through ignorance. So I went to naturopathic medical school first, fell in love with acupuncture, went to acupuncture school, and decided I prefer acupuncture because I'm more of a metaphysical kind of person, more woo-woo, if you will, than being a physician. Like, you're a physician, and that, to me, that's too serious. I
Yeah.
wanna be a physician.
So when I was in naturopathic medical school, I found that the Chinese medicine gave me a really important foundational way of looking at things.
Mhm.
With the 5 elements, with correlations of organ systems, with symptoms then. And in fact, my homeopathic mentor said Chinese medicine is the best way to diagnose, and then he added homeopathy is the best way to treat. We have our biases, but
Yeah.
it's a really foundational way to look at things, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I would say, not just, I love homeopathy. I mean, I've got use a lot of homeopathy, but I also use essential oils, which is a type of homeopathy. So I've partnered my acupuncture practice with a lot of essential oils. And so I agree with your homeopath completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us around to this whole thing about meditation types, right?
Well, I meditated, and I was so passionate about meditation. I wanted people to know how to meditate. So I started teaching workshops on meditation and to show people there's different kinds of meditation. This was back in the early 90s. And I ended up writing a book in the early 90s, Meditation Demystified. And it was based on 4 elements, because in the West, we think of 4 elements. And then I went to Chinese medical school, found out there's 5 elements, and then I'm a geek and a researcher, and we've now discovered the 5th element in the West. It's called, most people call it aether. In the United States, they call it ether with an E. And so I wrote the book in 2019 with the 5 elements, and spelled it ether like the Americans. And then after more scientific research, I realized it's aether with an A in front of it. It's not the gas ether.
Right.
And I added overcoming barriers to success with meditation. But it's important to know that there really are 5 elements, and whatever you're looking at, whether it's Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, astrology, human design, they all have 5 types. And when you look at people, they have 5 personality types, 5
fingers.
Yeah, 5 fingers. Yeah, now we actually used to have 6. 5 physical body types. And if you can recognize someone, usually just looking at their face and their teeth, sometimes you have to look at their hands as well, you can tell what their physical element type is. And when you know the physical element type, now you know what organ system or pathways in the body will break first. I said that to someone once and she said, well, what am I? And I said, well, you're a metal or an air element. And so the first thing that would, I'm sorry, you're a, no, you're a spleen stomach. And she said, no, I'm not a, no, she was a metal. I'm getting my own story mixed up. She was a metal person. And I said, that's a lungs, large intestine. There you go, lung, large intestine. She says, no, that doesn't work for me. I have digestive issues. I have celiac disease and pleurisy. Well, celiac is the first part of the large intestine, and pleurisy is the membrane around the lungs. She completely made my point.
Right, right.
So sometimes people come to you with these complex conditions. They've got this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. But if you know what their physical element type, you know what the weak point is where it all started. Now you know the underlying thing that needs to be fixed, because people will say, I have heartburn and it keeps coming back and I changed my diet, but you didn't know what the underlying cause of that was. And until you treat that, it'll never go away. So
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose of knowing, based on the 5 elements, what is your physical element, what's your emotional element, that sort of thing. So that's another reason to meditate, because you can get in touch with that part of you. So if you don't know the 5 elements, there's fire, earth, air, water, and ether. In Chinese medicine, it would be fire, earth, metal, which is the same as air, water, and wood, which is the same as ether. And you say, well, I do Ayurvedic medicine, and it has 3 doshas. Well, each of those doshas is associated with 2 of the elements if you go back to the Ayurvedic literature.
Now, do you have
And
something to illustrate this that we can share?
let's see, I think I got rid of that chart. Yeah, I do. Here we go. Let me
Because
do,
the elements are really fundamental, and I've used them before in 5 powerful ways to use nature for healing. But it's just really good to know what those elements are.
yeah, so fire, which is the heart, small intestine. In Ayurvedic medicine, that's fire or pitta. And in metaphysics and astrology, it would be Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Human design, those would be your manifestors. And fire people, when they meditate, they're the people that tell me, I can't sit still. And that means you're doing the wrong meditation. Why would you do a sitting meditation if you're a fire person? You need to do a standing meditation, a walking meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, Qigong. Those kind of meditations are for a fire person. Then there's the earth, which is spleen, stomach, and that would be your kaphas. And they're Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, and they're generators and manifesting generators. And then you have air or metal in Chinese medicine, which is lung, large intestine, and that would be a Vata in Ayurvedic medicine, a Gemini, Libra, Aquarius in astrology and metaphysics, and manifesting generators. So you notice that generators and manifesting generators are earth, and manifesting generators are slightly different than generators. They also have that air element. That's what separates them from a generator. And then you have the water elements, which is also kapha. So kapha is water and earth. And pitta. Pitta is fire and water. And then you have, in metaphysics, you have Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And then in human design, those are the reflectors. Like water is very reflecting. You don't meet a lot of reflectors. Reflectors is like less than 1% of the population. And then in Chinese medicine, you have wood or ether in Ayurvedic and Vedic literature, and that's the liver and the gallbladder. And they, in astrology, this is somewhat controversial, depends on who you talk to. Some astrologers agree, some don't. There's Ophiuchus. I say it wrong. I don't know how to say it. Sorry about that. And those are your projectors. And you don't have a lot of projectors around. It's maybe 20% at the most. But that gives you an idea. So you want to do the meditation that suits your element type.
And
So like I
what's
said, with fire, why would you do a sitting meditation when you're a fire element? That doesn't make any sense at all.
And what's so exciting about this information is that people, when they know their element and do the kind of meditation suited for that, can not only be healing, you know, their mind, they're healing their body at the same time. And those what you called organ systems that tend to break first.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have another slide that here we go.
So do you think most people can identify themselves in that kind of a chart? Or is there more you want to say about each type?
Well, it's complicated. I actually have a master program where I teach people how to recognize that. Okay, that's not working. How
So it's
to recognize it. It's complicated because each of those 5 elements, your face, the shape of your face, the size of your teeth, the shape of your fingers, are you really tall and skinny? Like wood elements and metal elements are both really tall and skinny. You meet these giraffe-like people, you know, long necks and really tall. They're either wood or metal, and the way you separate them is you look at the hands, and the wood people or the aether have really straight fingers and their knuckles don't stick out. Whereas if you go to the metal people, they'll have really big knuckles. So they kind of go out where the knuckles are. And that's how I differentiate between, there you go. Just like that.
So you don't automatically go with your sun sign, you know, say I'm a Libra, so it's more in depth than that.
No, my sun sign, I'm a fire dog. According to Chinese medicine, in what are the Western astrology, there's another tropical astrology, I'm a Capricorn, which would be an earth sign. And in Ayurvedic astrology, I'm a Sagittarius. So that's a fire sign. So that would be more like the Chinese. So you can't go by that. But I once had a woman do feng shui, and she told me, oh, you're a wood. And I'm in human design, I'm a projector, which is wood. And I went, oh, yeah, that makes more sense. So you actually are all 5 signs and a mix of, it's not like, oh, I'm this, I'm just fire. No, it's like in your astrology chart, you have what's called the 3 bigs. And then you've got, you know, where is your Venus and where is your Mars? And so you're not one thing, but there is one major underlying thing for your physical body. And you go by the shape of the body, the look of the face, and things like that.
So that's primary then, how you manifest physically.
That's for your health.
Yeah. But then for the meditation, choosing the right kind of meditation will support that then.
It will support that depending on the purpose of the meditation. So there's 5 common barriers to success. Oh, excuse me, I just hiccuped. Okay, where did I put them?
Yeah, because I get it. You know, there's some people who would, you know, they say, well, you know, running is my meditation, and that's where they're comfortable. And other people, you know, with the busy mind, it's learning to have the proper relationship with thoughts, so that can fall away.
Well, there's common barriers to success. And one of them is you may have a lot of emotional stuff going on. Maybe you overreact. Maybe you get triggered. How many of you get triggered by something? When I was young, there was a whole lot of things that triggered me. And as we get older, we feel some of those triggers. But there's some things that may still need healing. So you may need to do a certain kind of meditation. And the meditation I recommend for that is one of the water meditations. Because water is the universal solvent. Water is healing. What do you do when you got a boo-boo? You run it underwater, right? Or you put it in your mouth because it's liquid. There's just water. Water is unbelievably healing. And so I suggest the water if you want to heal something.
So it's not
Another,
so rigid as you're this type, you should do this kind of meditation. You then
Right.
have to add in the triangle of for what purpose at
What
this moment
purpose?
in time.
Right. Like, let's say, why am I here? What's the purpose of life? Why am I on earth? Well, then you would want to do the meditation that best suits that uh, question. Or you just don't even know what to do. You're completely lost. I think I have a chart for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Because for many years I did Tai Chi and Qigong. And for me, that was kind of a meditation, but it was also an exercise.
mhm.
And so I know it served a purpose. Uh, and I guess I could look back on and see, what I was focusing in on my life at that point.
Um, yeah, I use meditation for everything. If I'm to the point now where when you first start out, you need to do like 10, 20 minutes at a specific time twice a day. That is the best way to get started. Eventually, you need to make longer meditations, maybe 20, 40, 50 minutes an hour. And I used to then, if I had something really serious, I would meditate 4 or 5 hours. I'd set up an altar and I would sit down, I would turn off the phone, and I'm going to sit here until this problem is solved. The Hawaiians do that. They would stand at the beach and watch. And if they had to stand there 24 hours, they stood there however long it took watching the oceans until their problem was solved. So
Yeah.
that's one way. But if after a while, now I can just go into a meditation very quickly, get the answer I need. But that was like over 10 years it took me and a lot of shamanic journeying, a lot of healing. You get to the point where you're almost in a meditative state all the time. You stay connected to source.
Yeah, and I think that is the purpose of life, and that's a lot of what I teach too. And a lot of my experience is
Mhm,
being connected,
mhm,
resting in this present moment where all of life is. But
mhm.
that for me is a meditative state.
Yes. That's where the real goal of meditation is to get to that point, but you're not going to get to that point right away. It takes years and a lot of work. You have to heal yourself. You have to heal all aspects of yourself. And the only way you're going to do that is to get started. So that's
Right.
why I try to show people, get started, do it, put it in your calendar, budget the time, make the time. It's too important in your life. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the first thing that you start noticing is miracles in your life. Stuff happens. You think of something and then it just happens. And you go, wow, I was just thinking of that. I was just thinking of somebody. And then they called me. It'll be small stuff at first, but then it gets to be big stuff. And you realize how powerful you are. I had cancer. I knew I had cancer. I knew I would never do any Western stuff because it almost killed me. And I was past that. And I got to the point where I was in so much pain, I couldn't deal with it anymore. And so I went to the doctor. He says, "Oh, I've got to send you to a specialist." So I made my appointment. I went home and I did a shamanic journey crying. And I says, I'm not doing anything. Crap. I mean, you get scared when yeah, you really have cancer. And in comes Raphael and three angels, and I passed out. And I woke up hours later. I know it was hours later because it was dark out. I had to turn the light on. And the first thing I noticed was all the pain was gone.
Mm.
And I had this pink thing on my chest that was now orange. So I made the appointment with the oncologist, and when I went in to see him, he said, I don't understand this. You have this kind of cancer. And he pointed at a chart and he says, but it looks like it's going away. He said, if it's not gone in 2 weeks, come back. And, that was back in the early 90s. And that's when I learned the power of what I had in my hands,
Yes.
and that's
And I've
why
got
it's,
stories like that. Well, not quite that extreme, but I've got stories too. Yeah. Yeah.
it's just amazing what you can do when you finally meditate and get to know yourself and work on yourself. And your
So
meditations will tell you.
how can everybody who's listening in begin? If they haven't already begun, where do they start? Where?
One of the easiest things to do is to listen to guided meditations, and they're all over the internet. They're all over YouTube. I do a live guided meditation every Thursday night on YouTube. I'm sure you have meditations probably in your app and everywhere.
So how does that fit in with the elements? Can any element do a guided meditation?
Anybody can do a guided meditation. It's what you do is you decide, can I sit? Do I need to stand? Do I need to walk? Or do I need to lay down? I don't suggest laying down if you're tired, because you'll just fall asleep.
But then we always talk about the body gets what it needs, right?
Yes. So if you're that tired, you need sleep. But if it's like in the middle of the day, sometimes I will just meditate. Maybe I have 10 minutes and I'm tired and I have to do something. I'll do a 10-minute meditation. Instead of preparing, I'll do a meditation. I do a meditation before I do the live meditations on YouTube, because I say, what am I supposed to talk about? And I'll get the information. This is the meditation you're going to do tonight. Okay. And then I'll go do the meditation. So I meditate to ask, what should I do? I meditate to what's the best procedure? What am I supposed to do next? I mean, I use meditation for everything in my life.
And I know a group of my cohorts, we talk about how being in this present moment as meditation, it's like you don't even have to plan. As long as you're not in your head, as long as you're allowing life to live through you. I mean, that was the whole gist of Michael Singer's The Surrender Experiment, that book that he wrote about, where, he just allowed life to live through him. He didn't plan. And, I don't recommend that to start with, but that is actually one of the places that you can get to when you practice this. And one of the benefits that I find from it is that it's such a relief that I don't have to worry my mind about things. And, I have skills, I pay attention. It doesn't mean, I'm just gonna be happy-go-lucky, but by allowing life to be lived through me, I can be more present and be responsive in the moment. Absolutely. And that's what meditation does for me.
Yeah. That, and I know sometimes I'll be working with a patient and I'm in a meditative state and I will say things, stuff just comes through and I'll say it. And people will come back and they'll say, you said this to me and it meant so much. And I don't even remember saying it because it didn't come from me. It didn't come from my ego, from my thinking, or from my training. It came from source through me. And it was what that person needed to hear in the moment. So I don't question it. It's just, okay, this is what I'm supposed to say. And it just comes out. And the same with workshops. I don't think I've ever taught. I've been teaching meditation for decades and it's always different because it's different people in the class.
Right.
And it gets adjusted in the moment. Yes. And I give empowerments in every class, and every class ahead of time, I go, what empowerment should I get? And I've never given a class with the exact same empowerments. Source always gives me different empowerments for every class.
And that's what I find so exciting about having a meditation practice, is that this is how life can be. This is the promise of, a life well lived and having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. It is, then you let go of control.
Yes.
I went to Kuan Yin once because I I don't know why I picked Kuan Yin. Oh, maybe because she removes obstacles. And I thought, well, if anybody can remove an obstacle, Kuan Yin can. And I wanted world peace. I was just so sick of wars. There have been wars for as long as I've been alive, and I've been around a long time. And I said, how do we stop all the wars? What do I have to do? Is there anything I can do? And she said to me, do you like free will? Well, oh, yeah, oh, I like free will. I like being able to choose. She says, then you can't get rid of wars. And that's when I decided to be on the wheel of Dharma. And that's a Buddhist term. I like Buddhist terms because in English, we don't have the right terms for things. And being on the wheel of Dharma means you do in the moment what source is guiding you to do. You let go of your ego and free will. And I decided if that's the only way I can have peace on earth, then I'm on the wheel of Dharma. And I'm going to just allow source to flow through me and do what I'm guided to do. That's why in the middle of COVID, I shut down my business, sold my house, moved to a city where I didn't know anybody, met you, lived with you until I found a house and started this online business of Enlightenment Academy. All because in the middle of COVID, I was told move and move right now.
Yeah. So everybody can get to that point when you give up control, and meditation is the perfect tool to allow yourself to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I found that, there's no fighting, there's no resistance
Yeah.
with meditation. And so it becomes full of ease and grace.
But you have to be willing to let go of thinking you're the one that's in charge. You have the right and the ability to be happy. That's the reason you're here. But life is hard and you have to learn some lessons. So sometimes you get your butt kicked. And sometimes sad things happen, like my dog died recently, and that was very sad. So we do have sadness, and that's to remind us what happiness feels like. Because if you don't know what sadness is, you don't know what happy is. So,
And
you can be
I find
happy.
it's all love. It's
Yeah.
all love. Love teaches us.
Mhm.
So, you love your dog, and that's part of what's teaching you.
Mhm. Yeah. And so meditation is how you get through all of that and understand, well, why did this happen? Why did that happen? What was the lesson I needed to learn? Did I learn it? Because I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
And you get all of that through meditation. So
Yeah.
it's not just emptying the mind. So what I tell people is, number one, have it as a goal. It needs to be part of your purpose in life to meditate. And number two, schedule it. Put it on your schedule. Literally put it in your whatever you use. When I started, we had Palm Pilots. If you have an iPhone or you have a scheduler, I have a friend that still uses the little paper calendars. Whatever you have, schedule your meditation time just like it was an appointment,
Right.
just like it was, time to go to work. Okay, time to meditate,
Yeah.
and just do it.
Because we talk about it, it's almost like eating. It's like you're going to
Mhm.
eat, unless you're doing a strict fasting regime, but you're going to eat every day, and you're probably going to eat more than once a day. So meditate like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because it gives you that same kind of renewal.
Yeah, it's as important as breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. So how can people find a few more details about these elements of that they are, and the way that they can overcome obstacles to meditation?
Well, I have two things. One is I have a free gift. It's called dancingbeargift.com, and it gives you the 5 elements and the 5 common barriers and the type of meditation that's good for overcoming those barriers. Like I said, the water element for emotional issues. And then in my book, Meditation Demystified, I go into those 5 elements and what are the different kinds of meditations that are good for that element. And it lists resources where you can find those meditations.
So,
Some of them are on the internet, a lot of them are free. You don't have to go anywhere. It talks about prayer. Prayer is a type of meditation. Celtic prayers. So I talked about different kinds of prayers. So it's just full of all kinds of examples of different types of meditations, and they're all meditations.
Mhm.
And you don't necessarily do one all the time. You
So
know,
all of these links to your gifts are going to be in the YouTube notes and links in other formats. Yes, we'll have this wonderful gift right at your fingertips to help you along getting started meditating, knowing what meditation to do in any particular moment.
cool.
So what, I know you do so many other things. So what are some of your other activities that you have for people?
Well, I have a semi-annual summit that's free. It's called Holistic Transformation. It's always the last week of March and the last week of September. So it just ended, but the next one will be the last week of September. So if you get my free gift, you'll be on my mailing list. So you'll find out when it's going to start. Then
Perfect.
I have a weekly podcast, Holistic Transformation, on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and all over the place. It's called Holistic Transformation. And most of the time, it's me interviewing someone like Dr. Cheryl and talking about their transformational story, or it'll be me and I talk about the 5 elements, I talk about meditation or what have you. On Thursday, I have live on YouTube, I have a live meditation, and then I make a recording of it and I post it on the podcast so you can listen to it later if you want. And then I have my Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy, and there's both an app and a web version. So if you go to dancingbearenlightenmentacademy.com, it shows you how to download the app, or it gives you a link to the web version. But it also gives you links to all the other things that I do. Um, And the purpose of the Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy is to bring a lot of free courses. So in my app, most things are free. And if you actually create a login, you get a free course. And coming very soon, there will be a whole lot more courses because they just added the ability to add courses into the app. So I'll be doing a lot of that in the near future. And
Perfect.
then through my Dancing Bear Healing Center, if you want some kind of a healing, I have several different types of healing I do. Acupressure with essential oils, shamanic healing, energy healing, all kinds of different kinds of healing. So you would go through the Dancing Bear Healing Center to book an appointment with me if you wanted some kind of health issue worked on.
That's great. So if we want to go down the rabbit hole of Dr. Beverly Lawrence, there are all those opportunities. We're suggesting you start with putting in your schedule and meditating. With all these wonderful resources, you can figure out what kind of meditation to do in any moment. So that's really valuable. You said, you know, the first one is, are you lying down, sitting down, standing up, walking? Yeah. What do you need in that moment? So
Yeah.
this is perfect because every moment is unfolding differently. And so to have all these tools at your fingertips is really valuable. I thank you so much for being my guest here today, Dr. Beverly Lawrence. And any closing comment for the listeners?
Well, thank you, Dr. Cheryl. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I love talking about meditation. My closing comments for people are be the light you want to see in the world.
Be the light. And the best way to do that is get out of your own way. Use meditation as a tool.